classic period, which is the late 1700s, early 1800s. We're going to go to the 20th century now and do a piece by Francis Poulenc. So World War I was an absolute trauma to the entire world, and it changed the way writers wrote, musicians composed, and artists painted. Poulenc was a member of the generation in France called Les Six. These were a group of composers that really felt that music had to change. The old music of Debussy was just too sweet and wasn't appropriate for the 20th century. So they envisioned a more bold type of music. So although Poulenc was not fully atonal in his approach, and I'll explain what that means, his early pieces were very, very much experimenting with atonal music. So what's atonal music for you non-musicians? So music is written usually in a specific key or keys, and the chords correspond to the notes in the key. So the music has a very pleasant sound, and it sits usually very nicely on our ear. Atonal music is different. Atonal music, oftentimes the notes do not correspond to the key, and oftentimes it's not entirely clear what key you're playing in. So for some listeners, 20th century music is a bit hard to listen to because it doesn't have that sort of natural sound that we hear with logic sound we hear with something like Mozart or Beethoven. So this piece is slightly atonal. It's a little bold, different than the Mozart that you just heard. So as I mentioned, Poulenc was a member of Les Six. This piece was commissioned by the great Benny Goodman. Benny Goodman had a period in his career where he really got out of jazz and got very much into classical music and began commissioning a lot of pieces. Commissioned pieces by Bartók, by Copland, and he commissioned this piece, Poulenc. Unfortunately, Poulenc died before he had a chance to hear this. This was performed by Benny Goodman and Leonard Bernstein in, I believe, 1963, several months after his death. The form is typical sonata form. So sonata, a concerto form is usually a soloist and an orchestra, as we discussed with Mozart. Sonata is usually it's a piece that goes back to the Baroque and even earlier, the Baroque work. It consists of three musics, but it's more of a musical conversation between instruments. It is in a fast, slow format. So this is a fast, slow format. Interestingly, the first, and it's an allegro, in this case, rather than an adagio, a romance, and the third movement is an allegro. The first movement he titles Allegro Tristemente. Now, Christine and I are trying to figure out what he meant by that, because in translated from the Italian, it means sadly, cheerfully. So we tried to figure out how to play that, and I think you'll get the gist of it as we go through it. The second movement, the romance, is a very beautiful melodic line, but some shocks. There's some shocks in it. It's almost as if Poulenc is saying, I can do Debussy too, just like the next guy, but I'm still a member of the Les Six, and you'll get the feel of that when you hear this. Then the final movement is an allegro con fuoco. Allegro con fuoco, in Italian, that means an allegro with fire. And this is probably a nod to Benny Goodman. It's very fast. Benny Goodman liked to play very fast, and he liked to play a lot of high notes. So you'll hear somewhat fast, and you'll hear some high notes in this. So we'll give you Sonata for clarinet and piano by Poulenc.